Hi, this is the word for you today. My name is William Huff. I'm an intern here at the church. I am a senior in high school and will graduate this year from the youth and hopefully move on to the college group. And I don't really know what's next for me right now in life, but we'll see when we get there. So today's verse is we're in Revelation 2:11, and it states, "Whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches. The one who is victorious will not be hurt at all by the second death." Now, looking at this verse for what it's worth, you can get just like a standalone verse, you can kind of get a skewed idea of what it's supposed to represent. While it as itself is kind of speaking towards listening to what God has to hear, looking back on the verses prior and that whole little paragraph, we see that it's Jesus speaking to a church in Smyrna. And currently in these times, they're going through heavy persecution, whether it's from the government or Jewish authorities. They are constantly under pressure and being thrown in jail. And God is kind of calling to them to continue to be obedient, even if it means death is at their doorstep, to just continue to push through and know what comes next is so much better. And with that in mind, I feel like this verse alone, it speaks for the hope that God's eternity is just so much better than what any kind of trials we can face here on this earth. And when I kind of look at hope, I remember there was a experiment that I read online, and this included 16 rats. There was two different groups. There was Group A, which was 8, and Group B, which was the other 8. And in this, Group A was the kind of, I guess you could call it the control group. They were all one at a time placed in a tub and left to their own devices, and every single one lasted roughly a few minutes just on its own. And the second group was really cool to see, as they were also the same exact thing, except for at random times they were lifted out of the water only to then be placed back. And this group lasted even a few days on its own. And you think of, well, maybe they had enough of a break, but when you really look into it, that was not an option. Now, this to me represents hope, as we see there was a group that was stood alone, that had nothing. They didn't have a reason to keep swimming because they didn't have a chance. Well, the second group had a chance to be lifted out again, and that was their goal. And maybe eventually they'd be lifted out and kept out. That's kind of what they were striving for. And I think this shows that the difference between the groups there kind of reflects how our lives are, how the hope in Jesus and this eternity, it doesn't make these trials any easier than what they already are. But what it does is it gives us a goal and a reason to keep fighting. And that is incredibly important, especially in today's world, as we're hit with so many different things. And some people wonder, why do you keep fighting? Why do you keep going through? And it's like, because I know that tomorrow is worth it, and that my eternity is worth more than any kind of suffering we can face here on this earth. And when I look at God's hope in this verse, he speaks about the second death and how we will be victorious over that. And kind of most of you probably already know, but that second death is what will happen when we face judgment of God. And not being hurt at that at all means that we get sent to heaven, a place full of joyous eternity and everlasting time with God. And the way to reach there is by accepting Jesus Christ and continuing to live out. And kind of like how the first half of the verse says, we need to listen to what the Spirit says to us, as well as the church as a whole, whether it's listening to other believers and hearing what they have to say, just keeping our lives surrounded in what this hope should look like and how it's reflected. Now, what should we do about it? In today's world, there's so many different things going on, whether it's wars in Europe or different things going on in America or certain troubles even in your personal life. There's so many things coming at you that this sacrificial obedience is not something that we can necessarily see. It's a tangible thing, but I think we don't need to look at that on such a large scale. As in our own lives, we have things we set before this kind of obedience, whether it's time, money, whether it's people or our own comfort zones, that we just put these things before what our hope should be, that we know that it's not worth it to have comfort and peace in those things when that everlasting peace we can get from putting our hope in Jesus and sacrificing those things for his plan for us is so much greater. And that's all I have for y'all. Have a nice day.